to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now, this is another one of those episodes where it's the end of the year stream series or whatever. And I'm pretty much going over you read the title of the video, so this is going to be an easy focus on. So I guess before we get into that, we should get right into the news. First, we're going to do some local news. Tom Tillis pushes for prison time for online streamers after pre-election Hollywood cash blitz. Congress has once again put itself in a situation of having to pass last-minute omnibus bills to fund the government and prevent a shutdown. These truly are a must-pass bill since much of the government grinds to a halt without them, so they often get used for vehicles for controversial bills that can't pass on their own. Senators and representatives, This time around, one of the measures being crammed into this bill is from Senator Tom Tillis to turn unauthorized commercial streaming of copyrighted material, like an album on YouTube, a video clip on Twitch, or a song in an Instagram story, into a felony offense with a possible prison sentence rather than a misdemeanor according to protocol. The text of this measure has not been publicly released yet, but is expected to be broadly similar to past entertainment industry-backed bills such as SOPA and PIPA. This is stupid, and many people have been pointing it out, this is just terrible. Tillis is just terrible, which, I mean, I hate to be that kind of guy, but he was a real easy guy to beat, and yet, Dems chose, the one guy who just couldn't beat him. It just chose the one guy that couldn't beat him. Jeff Jackson, 100% could have beat him. Erica Smith probably could have beat him. Let's see, Atul Goel, maybe. They would have probably had a better chance. Basically, they picked the wrong guy, and looks like we're going to be facing some of the results of that. Yeah, it's look at me, especially considering he's introducing this bill in a, to be fair, I guess we should say, technically, Cal Cunningham winning probably wouldn't have actually prevented this, as this is going to be shoved in at the last minute. But, I mean, again, this just shows Tillis is just completely out of touch with literally anything anybody wants. Nobody wants these restrictive copyright bills anymore. Nobody does. The entire internet has rallied before in regards to fair use issues, and they will rally again once more in order to counteract that bad news. How about let's go over some good news? Some smaller electoral wins that happened that actually are beneficial. George Gascon, he is the, LA County DA, who recently won. He recently won, and he's been sworn in to do the job. And it turns out he's doing a lot of good things. He's ending cash bail. He's banning prosecutors seeking enhanced prison sentences, and showing leniency to many low-level offenders, which is a huge contrast from what LA previously had, which is pretty much like most other big liberal areas. They have to be tough on crime and blah 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 in order to come off as cool or something. The Democrats always seem like they need to do everything they can to, make it show. Everybody keeps saying this thing, Obama said this recent thing where he said, of course I had to do all these drone strikes. I couldn't look at too much like a dove, which is completely stupid because it's buddy, that's why they elected you. That's 100% why you were elected. They did it. This is literally every time the administration swap for a president, it's literally because what happened last time they didn't like, so they go to the person who is the least like it. People thought Bush Sr. was just absolutely terrible, so Clinton said, hey, I'm not that. And they went to him. People thought Clinton was terrible, and they were like, hey, yo, I don't want that anymore. I mean, technically, they didn't think he was that terrible considering Al Gore won the popular vote. But, I mean, there was at least enough, wiggle room and rigging to be okay, we switch. Then people thought Bush was just so terrible that they elected Obama. then gave him a Nobel Peace Prize for simply not being George Bush. Then people hated the Obama administration. They flipped to Trump. And now that people really hate Trump, they just jumped on whatever person was the least like him, ergo Biden. That's basically literally the only reason that these parties keep switching. Gascon was actually endorsed by Bernie, and I guess this really does show that these kinds of lefties on down the ballot races are 100% effective. Don't ignore them. I mean, I wouldn't have endorsed Joe Gascon because I don't live in this area. But I mean, if he came across my timeline, I would have retweeted him, basically said like, hey, you live in LA County? Okay, anyways, now let's move on to another story. Apparently, a suspected Chinese spy targeted some California politicians recently, and it's only kinda sort of been in some news. This is from Axios, and I saw this a lot on right-wing publications, so I originally was like, is this verifiable? But then I saw it on Axios, and I'm like, Axios is a bit more reliable, so I guess some things isn't exactly far off. Turns out there was a woman named Fang Fang, or Christine Fang, who has been going to up-and-coming local politicians in the Bay Area, and, local, politicians from that area that have become, high-ranking people, like Eric Swalwell, and have been, apparently she hasn't been doing much. She's been, forming relationships, and when I say relationships, I do mean in that way too, oink oink, but not to Swalwell, no. At least I don't think so. There hasn't been any confirmation on Swalwell, but I'm not going to make any speculations. She slept with a mayor and someone else, but not Swalwell. Seems her and Swalwell were just platonic, which of course the right-wing QAnon people on Twitter who have been sharing this story haven't exactly been, keeping that part known. Apparently she hasn't given much information, but she was there for espionage. She was in the phase where she was just still searching out for some information. Okay, so that wasn't that important. Well, I mean, it's important, I don't want Chinese spies on us. But I mean, it's a little bit of the lower spectrum of things. But to counteract that bad news, here's some more good news. Apparently, Lee Carter is filing to run for Virginia governor. It's a very interesting development, to say the least. I will give one area of caution. Here's my area of caution. You see, the Virginia gubernatorial race is a bit starting to get crowded. You see, there's Terry McAuliffe, who was the governor previously. The current lieutenant governor is running. There's a candidate by the name of Jennifer Carroll Foy, who is seen as the progressive candidate running. But now Lee is thinking of entering his name into the ring. And that has led to some interesting developments. You see, what do? Foy isn't a bad choice. I looked into her. She's not a bad choice. But, I mean, Lee is Lee. Lee Carter is Lee Carter. You can't pass up a Lee Carter. But what do? Does Lee move forward with his ambitions, or does he stay behind and back Foy? This is where I'm going to give Lee a cautious note. Lee, if you enter, you need to make sure that you are in the lead, because this is the only way you need to move forward. If you know you are in the lead, do some internal polls. You, Foy, McAuliffe, and all the candidates, if you see that you are beating Foy, and you have a clearer shot to at least make it into some sort of runoff or anything, you can take the opportunity. If Foy is beating you, or you're just not even in the realm of it, let's say it's like 29 Foy and 20 and 30 McAuliffe. If it's something like that, you need to start reconsidering your efforts. Also, I guess that's why he's also making it like he is still doing the whole like, oh, will I run or will I not run? Because this is giving him enough ample opportunity to like conduct the polls and like, see if he has an opportunity or anything like that. That's, I guess, the only benefit of like the stupid like BS of like a candidate going like, oh, I might run, I might not run, I'm blah blah blah. But yeah, I would be down for Lee to run, but Lee's gonna be cautious in his run. Okay, next story. Apparently, many people are taking note of the fact that Dianne Feinstein is not necessarily at her best. You see, this is what happened. In a recent hearing, November 17th, this happened like completely off the radar, and I even looked into it, and there wasn't, and things were very iffy. I'll explain when it happens. There was a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. Dianne Feinstein was talking to the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey. She asks him a question about Trump and his Twitter, and he's saying like, oh, I won the election. She's telling Jack, yo, he's saying all this stuff, and all you're doing is putting a little message saying, hey, it's not this thing. Why are you doing this? And Jack gave a response to her. But here's what happened. After he gave her response, she asked the question again, word for word, the exact same question again. Jack responded to the question again with a different answer. But many people pointed out, hey, yeah, wait a second. Dianne Feinstein literally just asked the same question twice. Now, of course, mostly right-wing media outlets have been talking about this. Like, the like really small, like weird conservative, like MAGA channels. Like the one they reference in the article is like literally a thing where they literally say like, oh, Dianne Feinstein, she forgot to flip her note page. But like, and they kept saying like they're making this deal bigger than it needs to be, when in fact it's like very interesting. Because I did look up Dianne Feinstein asks question twice, or Dianne Feinstein, Jack Dorsey CEO, and I did find 2 clips from the thing, from that aforementioned conservative media channel, and the other from a more respected media channel like ABC. The ABC version, which is the one that you see first, they literally cut out Dianne Feinstein asking the question a second time and just cut to Dorsey's second answer after he gives his first answer, making it seem like he's just continuing his thought, or, maybe Dianne Feinstein asked him a different question and then he's just responding to that. It is very interesting that they're bringing this, that they're trying to shove this under the rug. Even Chuck Schumer, when he told Dianne Feinstein recently to like leave the like Judiciary Committee, he was like, they made it seem differently, like just like, oh, we're just switching things up to make things a bit more interesting, rather than literally pointing out like literal cognitive decline in Dianne Feinstein. And this cognitive decline actually makes me think back. I'm like, I even tweeted about this. I was like, hey, remember when California was given the choice between Dianne Feinstein and like 3 young up-and-coming progressives, David Hildebrand, Allison Hartson, and Kevin De Leon? Yeah, you probably should have picked one of those 3, just in case. So yeah, I guess I'm going to have to do another piece of bad news before I do something else. There are 3 more articles that I have, but these 3 are worth noting. First, I guess I'm going to start off with me being proven right. Remember Iowa? And how literally everybody pointed out the fact that Iowa was literally stolen, but the DNC and everyone was literally like, hey, So you need to stop, blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out it was true. DNC meddling literally led to the caucus debacle. The report that was released identified a series of errors made by the DNC, IDP, and the technology company contracted by the state party to build a reporting app to collect caucus results. The February caucuses were overrun by foul-ups. The state party was unable to report a winner on caucus night. The mobile app to report results failed to work for many precinct chairs. The backup telephone systems were jammed, and some precincts had initial reporting errors. The state party chair Troy Price resigned in the wake of the debacle, which put Iowa's status as the first in the nation's nomination contest in serious jeopardy. The report puts blame clearly on the DNC for the heart of the problem on the caucus night. The delay in reporting the results, according to the report, the DNC demanded the technology company Shadow build a conversion tool weeks before the caucus to allow the DNC to have real-time access to the raw numbers because the National Party feared that the app would miscalculate results. The DNC's data system used a different database format than Shadow's, which caused multiple problems. So yeah, the DNC literally, their thing, them adding some stupid thing to whatever, is apparently what led to the caucus failures. Nothing much we can really say else. Okay, so the next story is coming from south of the border. Turns out I was proven right again. Turns out, in Mexico, remember how I was telling you that there was going to be this huge anti-AMLO coalition that was going to try and run as the saviors of Mexico, and they were going to unite all of the establishment picks and the parties and blah blah blah. Turns out I was 100% right. The PAN, the PRI, and now the PRD are forming this massive anti-AMLO coalition in order to try and beat him in the 2021 elections. I was 100% right. The one weird thing I guess I'm going to have to say is it seems weird that the Citizens Movement is the last remaining major party in Mexico that doesn't seem to have picked a side in this war. On one side you have Morena, PT, and PVM. Then on the other you have PRI, PRD, and PAN. But it seems that the Citizens Movement is weirdly silent. I'm not going to pretend that they're doing this for the best intentions. PVM isn't even, in the coalition with Morena for best intentions. They're just doing it because they align with whatever party is in charge at the moment. But the Citizens Movement, it seems like they might be testing the waters. I think they want to see who wins at the end of the day. Maybe they'll still run candidates in these, midterm elections. But then, after the midterm elections are done, they might join the coalition with Morena if they end up still winning, which they're predicted to win. But they might also go with the other ones if they think that they have at least big enough momentum in order to move forward with whatever. And there are also people who are jumping in to form their own parties, but also trying to mooch off of Morena. It's getting weird and complex again, but that's the advantage of having a multi-party system. You have all these weird and interesting complexities. In US, it's not that cool. It's blue, red, lame. In Mexico, it's you have maroon, green, blue, green, red, yellow, orange, whatever. Guess we'll have to wait and see what happens in 2021. I'll be paying attention in that one, giving you results, seeing how things go. Now, the last story before we get into the main topic is Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi's doing a thing. She's, been doing a lot of last minute governing. You see, Tulsi's she's leaving Congress pretty soon. And this is sort of like the lame duck session of the main Congress. This is Tulsi's lame duck. She knows that she's not going to be able to do much things in her last year of Congress. So now she's trying to introduce bills, particularly to get, like, people on her radar. Like, I mean, not that long ago, she introduced a bill to protect Julian Assange and Edward Snowden and pardon them. But at the end of the day, that bill is not going to get passed. She introduced another bill in regards to partial birth abortion. But that bill, again, is not going to get passed. And this current bill is revolving around the very serious, very large, very interesting, section of people that really seem to care about trans athletes for some reason. And it's apparently going to do quite a few things. Like, one of the things that it proposes to do is use a physician in order to... The idea was literally to protect women's sports. Now, here's the thing. Yes, this is 100% very transphobic, 100%. But here's the thing that I legitimately hear... Like, this is the thing I'm just going to be upfront about. I really don't care about trans athletes. This whole issue, this whole debate, as some people have literally called it. They've literally called it a debate. This is a highly debated issue. Nobody should care. This is literally not an important issue. Ooh, a person on hormones who's, like, literally, like, this, like, and they don't even know what side they're arguing. They get wishy-washy with their arguments because there's no arguments there. Like, they say, you need to acknowledge the actual biological differences between men and women and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, then, what are you talking about? Then what about trans women? Like, well, I mean, you know, biologically male and, I mean, and it's like, well, here's just a study that literally shows that there's no difference between, like, a person who is transitioned over the course of, like, a couple of years, and, they would be perfectly fine with entering the athletic field. And like, no, there's, and then there are people who always chew the thing that's like, oh, would you want your daughter to fight in an MMA fight with a male to female transgender person? And it's like, but yeah, but when they have, like, a weight category in order for them to be properly equipped to, like, better fight with someone with their relation in their weight, like they paint it as if, like, there's gonna be this big jacked, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger type that's gonna be like, he's gonna, like, fight against, like, a white belt in Taekwondo, and all he's gonna do is put on a bow, and then, all of a sudden, oh, transgender. They do the same thing with the bathroom thing. Like, they do this all the time. Like, oh, what if a person just decides randomly to identify as a girl? And then they'll masturbate to the people in their bathroom. Buddy, if a person walked into the bathroom, no matter which gender they are, if I went into the men's bathroom and just started jerking off to one of the guys in there, I'd be arrested. Same thing would happen in, like, this is stupid. This is just a non-issue. And I'm not going to debate this because I don't care. I don't know I don't know the intricacies of, like, transgender individuals. I don't know everything about this. I'm not an expert in this field. I don't study this. I'm not a transgender individual myself, so there's really no point in me debating this, or even talking about this. The only stance I can really take about this is, like, a human rights stance, and yeah, it's squared up. That Tulsi's just like, yeah, let's just do this thing, especially considering she literally, like, said, like, oh, I have a 100% pro-LGBTQ record, and now it's like, oops, well, except for this one time. Well, I mean, to be fair, technically, this bill's not going to get voted on, so I guess technically she does have a 100% pro-LGBTQ voting record. But I mean, it's the same thing as if, like, somebody introduced a bill saying all Jews must die. It doesn't matter if that bill gets passed or not, or if it even gets to go to the floor. The fact that someone introduced that bill at all should be an issue. One thing that seems to be interesting and very telling of like this sort of weird group of people that just follow where Tulsi goes, that clearly don't have any set ideology and just follow where Tulsi goes. Like, for example, biggest Tulsian of the year, Nico House. He originally tweeted that he did not want to talk about the issue because he's not a transgender individual and then not an expert. Then when someone says, that's a bit of a cop-out, bro, he immediately responds, oh, so you believe that a woman and man should be able to stop into the octagon and beat the shit out of each other? Okay, that was weird, stupid. Another interesting one that was a response was from the Hill of Roses, John Munitz, who recently got in trouble for some anti-non-binary things that he said to a person that he collaborated with very frequently and should have known better. He made a tweet, decrying her, and was like, here's the whole tweet. Damn, I just complimented her today. I don't think that this should be a legislative matter and should be left to the leagues, but I think the worst part of this law is that it's written discriminatorily since it's only regulating women's sports. Okay, probably not the best response, but it's fine. It seems fine. Oh wait, there's another sentence? I get her concern, but this ain't it. Ooh, that's the wrong number. Let me see. Here's another individual who was very interesting in regards to this. Grumpy Bertie Sanders. He critiqued her bill, but he also said, Tulsi, here's exactly what he said. Tulsi has an atrocious bill, but people from Majority Report, TYT, Humanist Report, Dole, and all the usual suspects should be the last ones to critique as they pushed a racist, rapist war criminal. Here's another individual that, praised Tulsi Gabbard. A person by the name of Abhijit Kulkarni. They're an individual who is a huge Tulstan, but you want to know what else they are? A Modi supporter. Not just a Modi supporter, a stupid Modi supporter who claims that Modi is center-left on economics when you literally have to just look it up on Wikipedia and see that he supports neoliberal economics that were pro-privatization. Immediately, you don't get to be part of the left and then do that. And when I point this out to them, they keep saying, no, not left, center left. And that's when I realized, I should probably stop trying to debate people who have no clue what they're talking about. Unless it's on a public forum where I can humiliate them live on camera. Now that we got all the news in the way, let's move on to the main topic of this video. Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk. Now, it may or may not be a secret that I am not only a fan of Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk, but am also partially inspired by him to start my own show. Now, me and Kyle are kind of similarly, cut from the same cloth. And me and him kind of started our show around the same time period in our lives. Kyle was in college when he started his show. I'm in, community college area. The, early 20s phase of our lives where it's we're kind of in that phase where it's you're being pushed out of the nest. Move forward and do things and blah, blah, blah. And we have, an interest in this political field, but also we kind of, move forward and, want to do this as a show. In fact, I kind of, get some sort of inspiration from, things that he says. One thing that he said that I found was very interesting was when he said, in order to do this kind of political content, you have to be okay with doing it while nobody is listening. And yeah, I'm perfectly content with doing this, even if literally not a single person watches, or even if I get 3 views per video. I get 3 views per video, I'm still doing it because I like doing it. It's fun. I think it's interesting. I used to have another YouTube channel where I did different content, but I mean, I would put in a ton of work, and then I wouldn't really feel that fulfilled when doing it. It was fulfilling at first, but then as it kept going on, it just kept like getting, This YouTube channel, with, this and all these videos I do, I get more fulfillment from them. Now, how did I really get noticing Kyle's content? It was similar, it was like a TYT thing. I was watching TYT, and then Kyle's videos were starting to get recommended to me, and I would watch them, and I would agree with his analyses and blah blah blah. And I thought he was funny. He was like a edgy atheist type in his early to mid 20s at the time. He's 30 now. I kind of have a perspective, I guess, similar to the Progressive Voice, but somehow Progressive Voice went forward and got thousands of subs, and meanwhile I did not, which is funny and weird because it's they all call themselves indie media, but I'm probably the most indie media-esque group person of them all because I've actually had Green Party candidates on my show. Meanwhile, they mostly have just react to clips and blah blah blah. But basically, me and Kyle, we kind of shared we were two peas in a pod. And I mean, yeah, I would argue probably of the major indie media figure types, I would still consider him, the best. Humanist Report and National National also are pretty alright. I'm not exactly going to admit that they're perfect, but I mean, I guess Humanist Report would get a video of his own, and so would Rational National. But I guess we're gonna talk about Kyle first. I mean, yeah, me and Kyle, we're both in the same social democratic pod, I guess, to a degree. And I mean, Kyle is one of the figures that I guess you can say is one of the types who has done more than just preach on Twitter and YouTube, because he literally founded Justice Democrats, one of the groups that literally got AOC into power. That is very, I mean, good on Kyle. But I mean, I'm not gonna say he's, again, perfect. Kyle's had his own flaws. I mean, let's just cut to the chase. He's a straight white guy. And I might say, well, I mean, come on. It's not bad. I mean, yeah, it's not bad, but I mean, it's I will admit there are some blind spots. I mean, the one big blind spot of his is certain issues that even I'll admit, I don't have, I'm not the best either. I'm better than him, but I mean, he does have some, blind spots in regards to, gender fluid and non-binary issues. And it's especially kind of evident in a recent video that he did about Jordan Peterson, where he still weirdly parroted the Jordan Peterson, viewpoint in regards to Bill C-16, which is absolutely not what Bill C-16 does. Jordan made this whole spiel about how Bill C-16 was compelled speech that would force teachers to call people by G-jur, when in fact it did not do that. What it did was simply add people who were transgender into a group of individuals that you cannot discriminate against. So basically it's you can no longer discriminate against someone based on race, sex, gender, or sexual orientation, or gender identity. Basically, it added those kinds of categories to the currently existing code. Now you can't discriminate against someone for identifying as non-binary. That is a good thing. And Jordan Peterson pretending it was this sort of free speech bullcrap thing. And for some reason, Kyle parroted that point, which is weird. It's just really weird. But I mean, there is also some weird, I don't necessarily, Kyle would necessarily be on the left. He is on the left. But I mean, it's weird because he also kinda, sort of weirdly draws weird lines. For example, This shows the biggest contrast between me and Kyle. Kyle, he, and I mean, you could tell because, in the beginning of it revolves around the political compass test. Me and Kyle did the exact same thing on our first taking of the test for our YouTube presence, but it just so happened that me and Kyle also took it a second time for our YouTube presence as well. And that second time is what makes the difference. You see, here is the question in question.
From each according to his ability to each according to his need is fundamentally a good idea.
I see. That's the question. Here is how Kyle responded to the question.
Yeah, no, I generally disagree with that. That's a communist sentiment, and that is not what I believe in. I believe more in social democracy than communism.
Buddy, maybe you should have, tried looking into more why what the quote means, or, whatever. The second time I did this, I could have just went with the whole, you know what, I'm not going to analyze what this thing is. I'm just going to say no, because scary communism. But I decided to actually sit there and think about, what the quote means. I was thinking, from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. From each according to his ability to each according to his needs. And when I actually, crafted my explanation for it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Of course, it's of the theory. It's of this broad idea. Do you agree with it? And yeah, it is broadly a good idea. Broadly, yes. People who have the ability to make something should give it to people who need it. Yes, that is a good thing. As a leftist, we should agree that is a good thing. We agree on we should all agree that yes, overall, broadly, we should do that. We can debate on how much we do it and what's the system we have to do it. But overall, we should generally agree that that is a good idea. Especially considering that is literally what the conservatives on YouTube do in response to the question. They don't give any analysis, they don't look into the idea, they don't explain why it's a bad idea, they just say, it's Marx, bad, yucky, gross. Communism, ew. I'm not a communist, but let's just be real. Marx is the granddaddy of the left. So, if you're on the left, you should at least think that there's an idea of his that, it's that guy, he's a smart man. I should at one point read the Communist Manifesto, or Das Kapital. The Communist Manifesto was probably it's the first one, so I think I should probably read that at one point. Mafiarel Lagarda, I don't read Marx. And I guess it's sort of a big contrast, the difference between me and Kyle is that Kyle still kind of sees social democracy in that weird vein where it's oh, we're the best of both worlds, communism and, capitalism and blah, blah, blah. When in fact it's not necessarily the truth, because social democracy it's a faction of the left. And of course, I think he does agree with that. It is a faction of the left. It's not a destiny thing where he says oh, social democracy is completely different from the right and the left, or a John Munitz thing. But he still sort of has a little bit of that mindset, when in fact you need to analyze, you recognize that social democracy is a part of the left, ergo it will be allied with the left, and it won't just look at communism and be ew, yucky, icky. It will see some benefits there when they're there. You're not going to be seeing me retweet Caleb Maupin, or being super into the Communist Party of the United States of America. But they are part of the left, and we acknowledge it. I acknowledge it. There are good aspects of it. I'm not going to turn away communists just because, ooh, evil communists. I'll turn away Tanky because Tanky is stupid, but, if they're a communist that has brains, then sure. But anyways, that's pretty much all I gotta say about Kyle. He's good, and he's probably the best of the indie media lefties, but he's got flaws as well. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the future video mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report.